April 2024 marks a significant milestone as South Africa celebrates 30 years of democracy and the Gauteng Provincial Legislature's existence. In 1994, legislatures were established to make laws for provinces and hold provincial governments accountable for service delivery and the use of public funds. Committees of the legislature consider laws, monitor the work of provincial government departments, and make recommendations about the work of departments, including their structure, functioning, and policies. Meet the chairpersons.
Thank you for joining us once again on this special broadcast brought to us by Gauteng Provincial Legislature. We're in conversation with Chairperson of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts, also known as SCOPA, John Moodey. It's a pleasure, honor, and we appreciate the time you've taken to come and speak to the people of Gauteng.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. Indeed, it's not just about speaking to the people of Gauteng. It's about how do we serve the people of Gauteng.
Talk to us then about, Standing Committee on Public Accounts, or SCOPA, and its oversight role in the Gauteng Legislature.
Well, I think there should be an emphasis on what it is that SCOPA does. Many people don't understand what its mandate is. Where you have other committees, per se, looking after the interests of and performance of particular service delivery departments, SCOPA, in a sense, has an overview of the financial spend and performance of all the departments and entities within the legislature itself, which includes the legislature and also the office of the Premier, no less than 31 of those, because it includes the entities as well. And we work in very close collaboration with the Auditor General, with the Public Service Commission, and also with Provincial Treasury. But we also have a relationship with the Special Investigations Unit. So what it is that the Auditor General and the Treasury comes in as a support, and the Public Service Commission actually gives us a presentation, the three of them, in the beginning of this particular session that we are with. And what's the session I'm talking about is? It is a matter of us looking at the financial outcomes in terms of the financial reporting for the 2023-2024 financial years. So the Auditor General has gone and done their work in terms of auditing as an external auditor on these public entities per se, and they come through with their recommendations in terms of their findings. Similarly, you have the same input from Treasury, where they've picked up some anomalies, and also not just about anomalies where there has been improvements and where there's strengths, because it should be very balanced. From a Public Services Commission too, in terms of performance of the different entities, where the problems may lie, etc. So we sit for this past 2 days, and for the next 2 days we'll be looking as a SCOPA committee, taking all that data together with our own assessment of all those financial statements or reports that were brought in. We don't just take it as gospel what we're receiving from those three particular entities, because we also have in terms of our own research. So we take all those things and we look at more specifically the efficient and effective spend of public funds. Now, good audit outcomes is a reflection of prudent management of financial management of funds over a period of time, compared to informed by the annual performance plan. And that, of course, is a very technical aspect of things. That's where you pick up irregularities, misspent, fraud, etc., which is a very critical part of how do we effectively and efficiently use public funds. And it should be translating into a better living conditions, service delivery, etc., of the people of Gauteng. Just getting a clean audit is not a reflection of what the people on the ground actually experience, which is what I call impact. And I think that as a legislature over the past 30 years, and I've been here previously for 18 years, and I'm back again after a 4-year sabbatical. I can see the improvement happening in terms of financial or prudent financial management. And it's on a good trajectory, and consequent management that goes with it, because to a large extent, the perpetuation of mismanagement, fruitless expenditure, irregular expenditure, etc., is a recurrence, has been a recurrence, and may I emphasize that, has been a recurrence in the past because of ineffective consequent management. But over the last financial year and the previous one, compared to this one, a person can see a marked improvement because of taking into consideration the recommendations put forth by the Auditor General, Treasury coming to the assistance, and also the Public Services Commission coming to the fore. I think the Zondo Commission and its findings has a big impact upon shaking up matters. What we now need to look at is the prudent, not just the prudent financial spend, but how does it actually translate into a better life for the people of Gauteng?
I'm sure there were, some challenges that the committee would have faced in your oversight role over the financials of the Gauteng province and all the other entities that you spoke about. I think you mentioned 31. Are there any challenges that you may want to share with us?
Yeah, there's one. There's 2 or 3, but I'm going to highlight the one that I find to be of most critical importance to us as a committee, and was highlighted once more over this past 2 days, is a matter of consequent management. And what do I mean by consequent management? So a person is found to have been involved in an irregular and suspect spend of money. I don't want to call it corruption. And disciplinary action gets taken against the person who's an employee. In many cases, as we've seen now, and didn't happen before, the person is dismissed. What was highlighted is the fact that it cannot just be about the dismissal or they resign. It should be a matter of there has to be criminal action taken against that individual. And more importantly, and this is where the emphasis also lies, and as a committee and a commitment also yesterday given by the Premier, is that we need to go after that money. Because it is billions of rand that should have been spent over the years on infrastructure, on service delivery such as hospitals, etc., that has in a sense been swindled out of the system. And it cannot be that people continue to live a lavish life on the expense of our people. So it is that thing about going after that money, getting that money back into the system, and therefore being able to deliver the services. Because to a large extent, yes, we get money from national treasury as our share of the budget, national budget, but we also need to generate our own income. We're not a business where we generate profits over losses. But the income I'm talking about is your hospital fees that you pay, your traffic fines, your licensing, and that type of thing. Yet there's billions out there that we should be recovering, and that is what we will be going after from here on. And when it comes to consequent management, it is about putting the appropriate people into place, your accounting officer, your CFOs, so that they in turn will take the necessary steps to correct things, and to where they find issues, or it's reported to them, to take immediate action and remedy it before it happens a year later when an audit takes place, and it takes another year for those recommendations to be put into place. It is way after the fact. It's ex post facto. We want to move to a process where we pick up issues now and we're able to deal with it now, and then of course deal with the backlog so that we move forward from here. So it's about employing the right people for the right job and also holding them accountable. So to a large extent, that is what's a good business practice.
And you touched on, the next issue briefly earlier on. We're talking to you now. You're from a breakaway session for SCOPA. Are there any other issues that you would like to discuss that you are dealing with at this breakaway session? And, just in general, how does it assist in the work of SCOPA's oversight on finances of the Gauteng province?
Well, you see, we shouldn't be acting in isolation as SCOPA. What we have done is we have invited the chairpersons of committees to also come here when their particular department's audit is being discussed. I think we should go a step further where we should have the MECs for them too, because ultimately they are the political heads. Also together with the accounting officers, which is your CEOs, so that they can also see what it is that is being presented. I would believe that before the Auditor General has even come to us, they have already had those discussions with the MECs and with the HODs, etc. But it would be good for them also to just get an holistic picture as to what the circumstances, not just particular to their own department is, but an overall picture as to how their conduct and their management, etc., impacts upon the rest of service delivery within the province. What is also of extreme importance for us is not just the issue of financial oversight. It's about us going to ensure as a committee, together with those committees that should be doing it, your portfolio committees, actually going out and seeing if the spend is happening. Because it's one thing to have it reported on paper. It's a different thing to actually go and have a look and see if indeed that clinic has been built, if indeed service delivery is happening there, if indeed that road has been tarred, so that we are able to not just accept, but also verify. And I think that to an extent is a bit of a challenge, and also a coordinated way of doing it. I'm very, very pleased by the fact that the NSOP week that happened last week stems. Well, I had a discussion with the Premier about the fact that we need to go after those old projects, because as long as those projects remain incomplete, etc., it continues to reflect upon a government that is, number one, uncaring, that is corrupt, assumed to be corrupt, and then also a matter of we're not getting the services that we do. So it's one thing about building a new hospital here, when there's 3 other hospitals that are incomplete, or schools that are incomplete, or even the road that's incomplete. So once we're able to look and get those issues done, because money has already been spent there, it's an advantage. We sort that out. It is about that low-hanging fruit. It is about regaining the confidence of the general public out there who should be the beneficiaries of the service delivery once we're into the legislature and government, and therefore would be able to move forward.
Honourable Moodey, what would you say are the trend in terms of audit outcomes for the 2023-2024 financial year that the committee is satisfied with? I mean, this could include some of the progress that's made by some of the departments in terms of their own audit outcomes.
It's good that you talk about own audit outcomes. One thing that was highlighted in this particular sessions that we are going through is that there needs to be more stringent internal audits. Every business has an internal audit process, and it is taken very seriously, because that is where you're doing your probing across the board and picking up tendencies or trends and correcting it where it is. And I think that is one of the emphasis and issues that has been raised over this particular sessions that we're on. I must also indicate that we had been dealing with responses from departments on the audit outcomes of the 2022-2023 year. We should have happened already by March this past year, but due to the elections was deferred. And I'll tell you that to me it was a shock when we looked at all those questions and resolutions that came forth and the responses that we got. And we said, no, we need to follow up on these things. But we also decided that we've got our questions where, for example, a person has been fired. We're asking the question, so found guilty, fired, about money being, what's a criminal charge laid? Is there follow up to regain those funds. I must say, with the reports that we're receiving this year, for the past financial year, in a sense, we're going to need to, the committee and I will be looking, after we've got the presentations from the Auditor General, we'll be looking at those questions that we were going to ask as follow-ups, looking at the reports as they are with the new data that has come to the fore. And as they were talking, we could see that some of those questions we were going to ask has already been answered. So from where I am sitting and where we are sitting as an audit committee, things looks improving and it looks better on the financial aspect of things. As I said earlier on, I think we need to get to the proof of the pudding by eating it, and that is by actually going and looking at the oversight to ensure that things are happening. But going a step further than that is also going back 5 years, at least 5 years, looking at programs that were put into place, whether they're being completed or not, and see what the impact has been on the lives of our people. Because it's one thing about output and outcomes. It's about the impact at the end of the day to take us further from there.
The committee's oversight role also includes a collaboration with Chapter 9 institutions. How is this collaboration assisted, in supporting the work of the committee?
Well, as indicated earlier on, the Public Service Commission, the SIQ, our Treasury is on its own, but also the Auditor General, there is a good working relationship with those organizations. And there's a willingness from their side to collaborate with us as SCOPA for us to be able to achieve the common goal, and that is to improve service delivery overall. And I said about the efficient and effective spend of public funds. We know the dire circumstances we find ourselves in financially, with our foreign debt being as high as what it is, with the declining, battling economy, the declining tax base. We see now there's a number of big companies leaving South Africa, and we are reliant upon that in terms of our fiscus for us to be able to do what we need to do. So I cannot complain about the open door policy that has already been established over a couple of years. And for me as a new chair, and out of the 11 of us, only one is still a serving member of SCOPA from the previous term. So in an extent, a little bit of a learning curve for us, but also a good opportunity for us to be able to form new relationships and to move forward from there.
And how does SCOPA ensure that there is public participation in the oversight work that you do?
Well, emanating from these reports that we have been receiving now and will continue to receive, and when we as a committee go into our plenaries and do a little bit of more of interrogation of those findings, of those recommendations, etc., we then look at those departments where we believe there needs to be follow-up. So we'll send the questions to them, our own questions as well as those that were suggested and proposed by the Auditor General, the Public Service Commission, Treasury, but more so from the Auditor General. And they have 7 days in which to respond. Those questions that are responded to and we're not happy with those responses, we will be calling those departments, which is with the MSCs, to a hearing. And those hearings are open to the public. What we do is we do have a public relations and stakeholder unit within the legislature, and we do publicize it quite extensively, and we even go online so that people can go online and participate or listen to the hearings taking place. Ultimately, it is about transparency, and I'd like to believe that what we are going through over this past 2 days and into the next 2 days would be a matter of shining the light upon the issues that needs to be addressed, where we need to remedial action. But at the same time, I think we'd be remiss to not also emphasize the improvement that is taking place, because too often we send a message out there of just gloom and doom. there needs to be a message of, yes, there's an improvement from the financial aspects, but as I was speaking earlier on about the confidence, regaining the confidence of the public is a matter of us following through, and then also doing what we have already suggested to other departments and so on as well, is that they need to be having a customer satisfaction survey being done so that we can assess how the public, the receivers of those services, see the service delivery that they are receiving. And I need just to emphasize this though. Everything else can go good, but health, for example, is still a mess. Everything else is tainted that way. It's like a police officer who wears a uniform. Most of them, the vast majority of them, are honest, wanting to make a difference, and those few delinquents tarnish everyone with the same brush. So it's a similar circumstance that we find ourselves with in service delivery.
And in conclusion, what legacy would you like to leave as a chairperson of your committee in terms of improving accountability, improving governance, and improving the lives of the people of Gauteng?
I'm glad you asked me that question yesterday in my introduction and opening up of the session. I think I'm privileged, and I think that I'm blessed to be given this task of chairing SCOPA. At this way, I see it as the twilight of my political career that stems for over 50 years as an activist. It is for me and my committee, and I chair this committee, to leave a legacy where we've raised the bar, not just from what we founded in the last term, but to raise it exponentially. Because I think the atmosphere, the appetite for South Africans is for something better, is for something new, especially if the people have spoken this year in terms of the way they have voted. So we find ourselves in a very exciting stage of the history of our beautiful country and this young democracy, where I think that SCOPA Gauteng, more specifically, can make a huge impact in terms of changing the mindset of getting those things that are wrong, fixing it up, and more than anything else, bringing back accountability, bringing back respect, bringing back a confidence in government. Never mind what the and I'm a politician does. It's about getting the administrations to do the work that they need to do. And I think that to me, in 5 years' time, when we finish the 7th administration, for them to say, wow, it started there, and we can see the overall performance of Gauteng as a province having exponentially grown, and once more, as we already are, just being that leading province in terms of governance and taking South Africa to the better future that we all deserve.
John Moodey, Chairperson of SCOPA Gauteng, thank you so much for chatting to us, and we look forward to interacting with you again in the future. All the best with your term.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the time.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.